For decades, the desert wind has whispered its secrets. Secrets buried in the cracked asphalt of a forgotten road, secrets locked inside a forgotten place. The Blackwater Motel. A landmark for travelers, a final destination for others. This isn't a story about a crime. It's a story about a place. A place that has swallowed people whole. Our story starts not with a body, but with an absence. The absence of Thomas Ringer. A traveling salesman from Cleveland. He checked into room 23 on a Tuesday night in 1988. He never checked out. His car was still in the lot. His suitcase, still in the room. But Thomas Ringer was gone. The local police closed the case as a voluntary disappearance. They said he was just another traveler who didn't want to go home. They were wrong. Over the next decade, 3 more people vanished from the Blackwater Motel. All from the same room. Room 23. This is the Silent Witnesses. The motel was built in 1965. A simple, one-story structure with a faded neon sign. It was popular with families and salesmen. The owner, a man named George Ellison, ran it for over 30 years. The disappearances started in the late 80s, but the pattern went unnoticed. A transient here, a troubled teen there. The cases were scattered across different jurisdictions, different years. The common thread? They all rented room 23. The same room Thomas Ringer stayed in. We dug through the archived police reports. The details were chillingly similar. Everyone who vanished left their belongings behind. No signs of struggle. It was as if they simply evaporated. The first witness we spoke to was a former maintenance man, Sam Jenkins. He worked at the motel for 15 years. We found him living in a small trailer just a few miles down the road. That room always gave me the creeps, he said. It had a strange feel to it. Like it was holding its breath. We asked him about the disappearances. He didn't want to talk about them at first. He just shook his head and looked at the ground. But we kept asking. He finally told us about an old well. A forgotten, sealed-off well behind the motel, hidden by overgrown bushes. The well was filled in when the motel was built. Sam claimed he saw George Ellison, the owner, working near it one night. Long after the motel had closed. The police report mentioned a search of the grounds, but a search of the motel. Not the well. It was never even mentioned in the report. Why? We went to the site ourselves. The motel is now abandoned, fenced off with "No Trespassing" signs. We found the location Sam described. There was a faint indentation in the ground where a well might have been. The original blueprints for the Blackwater Motel were stored in the county archives. They showed a well on the property map, right where Sam said it was. But it was labeled as a disused water source and marked to be filled. What if it wasn't filled in completely? What if it was left open? A convenient place to hide things. We found another witness. An old newspaper article from 1995. A local journalist named Sarah Jones wrote a piece about the strange disappearances at the motel. She was the first to connect the dots. The article was titled "The Ghost of Room 23." She interviewed George Ellison. He dismissed her claims. He said they were all just stories. But Sarah Jones kept investigating. The week after the article was published, she vanished. Not from the motel. From her home. Her case, like the others, was eventually closed. Labeled as a runaway. No one ever connected her disappearance to her investigation of the Blackwater Motel. Until now. We reached out to her family. Her niece, who now lives in a different state, agreed to speak with us. She showed us her aunt's old journals. Sarah had written down everything. He was sweating, nervous. Said the room was just unlucky, one entry read. He tried to change the subject, kept looking over his shoulder. I think he knows more than he's saying. Another entry had a single, chilling word circled over and over again, Blackwater. The name of the motel. We cross-referenced the dates of the disappearances with other events in George Ellison's life. He had a family. A wife and a son. The son was in and out of trouble with the law. Petty theft, assault. In 1993, 2 years after the third disappearance from room 23, his son, a man named Mark Ellison, went missing. He was never seen again. A missing persons report was filed. But unlike the others, this case was closed almost immediately. The file was marked "Suspected Foul Play." But there was no follow-up. It was as if the police didn't want to look too closely. We found a retired police officer who worked the original cases. He asked to remain anonymous. He was a young rookie at the time, assigned to the Thomas Ringer case. It was a mess, he said. The files were a mess. George Ellison was a big deal in that town. He had a lot of friends. The sheriff, the mayor, they all went fishing together. We were told to stand down. Stand down from what? The investigation. He wouldn't say more. But the implication was clear. There was a cover-up. A very old, very effective one. The deeper we looked, the more it seemed like the town wanted the Blackwater Motel's secrets to stay buried. And then we found an old aerial photo of the property. A photo from the 70s. It was taken by a local pilot. He was mapping the area for a utility company. The photo showed the Blackwater Motel in its prime. And a faint, circular patch of darker earth behind it. Exactly where the well was supposed to be. The ground looked disturbed. We ran the image through forensic software. The analysis showed signs of recent soil displacement. Not from a simple filling. But from digging. Deep digging. We went back to the old motel. This time, we went with a thermal imager. We scanned the ground near the well. There was a cold spot. A circular area that was several degrees cooler than the surrounding earth. It was a sign of a cavity. A void underneath the surface. The well wasn't just filled in. Something was underneath it. This is where the story takes a turn. Because the investigation wasn't just about what was in the well. It was about what was in the motel. We got a tip from a former employee, a maid named Martha. She worked there in the early 90s. She said George Ellison had a hidden room. A small utility closet in the corner of room 23. A closet not on the blueprints. We found it. It was hidden behind a false wall. And inside, we found a box. A metal lockbox, rusted shut. We got a warrant and a key. Inside, there were no bodies. No secrets. Just a stack of old journals. George Ellison's journals. They detailed his life, his family, his struggles. And a chilling confession. The boy did it again, he wrote in an entry from 1988. He came home covered in blood. That salesman, in room 23. I had to get rid of him. I put him in the well. He's my son. What am I supposed to do? Mark Ellison, the son, was a serial killer. And his father, George, was his accomplice. He helped him hide the bodies, covering up the evidence for years. The missing journalist. Sarah Jones, she got too close. The last journal entry was from 1993, the year his son vanished. He's gone, it read. Ran away. I'm alone now. They're all gone. I have to make this right. George Ellison didn't report his son's disappearance. He didn't have to. He had his own secret. The well was his responsibility. He had sealed it off. Filled it with concrete. His own son, was the last body he put down the well. The truth of the Blackwater Motel wasn't about a place. It was about a father's choice. A terrible, monstrous choice. And it wasn't a secret he wanted to share. George Ellison died in 2005. The secrets of the Blackwater Motel died with him. Until now. We may never know how many people are buried beneath that abandoned motel. But now, we know why. The mystery has been solved. The silence is broken.